Alright, hope everybody's having a good one. Welcome to Microsoft Flight Simulator with Cookie Pirate. Today, we're flying the Cirrus SR22 up in the far north of Alaska. We're going from Arctic Village over to Anaktuvuk Pass. We're going at 16,000 feet. It should be about a 45-minute flight. And the flight tracker is saying 138 miles. Climb aboard, let's go flying. Hey Maria, welcome. Flying to Skyrim by any chance? Well, this is probably about as close to Skyrim as you're going to get in the real world. Alright, we're loaded in. Oh, it is pretty dark. That, I think, is beyond Civil Twilight, technically. So, well, we'll check into it. But you can see the little headlight illuminating everything because it's dark enough to where you can't really see much. Startup is going to be pretty regular, so we're going to do the battery switches. We get these red lights glowing. And I'll explain that in a few minutes. But there's a reason they're red and not like white or yellow or something like that. Alright, let's exit out of that. Let's wait for everything to initialize. We're going to go ahead and set our altitude to 16,000 feet. FLC to 110. We'll turn VNav on. I'm going to leave nav off for the minute. Let's go ahead. Nav lights. Oh, no. Put that parking brake back on. Tried to turn the strobe lights on and it clicked the parking brake. Alright, let me just do a quick check around. We're actually going to turn the landing light on now as well, just to illuminate the ground around us so we can see a little better. Clear left, clear right. There's actually no parking crew around us or anything. Fuel switch pump on. Look at that, the mixture starts idle where it should be. Bump it full forward. Now we're going to bump the throttle full forward, cut it back, and then bump it just a tiny bit forward. Now we're good to start the engine. Last check real quick. Clear ahead, clear left, clear right. Clear! Sorry, that spiked the noise a little bit. Alright, the battery amperage is really low because of everything we have turned on. Let's get the... oh, come on. Let's get the alternator switches on. It's telling us turn the pitot heat on now, so we'll go ahead and do that. Temperature's minus 21. That is minus 6 Fahrenheit. Turn the avionics on and let the GPS load up. Let's grab the weather real quick here at Arctic Village. 050 at 5, so a gentle wind out of the northeast. 7 miles visibility, clear skies, temperature's minus 21. And the altimeter is 30.37. That checks out. Alright, so we've got the weather. Now, we would, if we're going based on the wind, we would probably taxi down this way, take off this way, and swing all the way around. But with a 5-knot tailwind, I'm not too concerned about that, so we could actually taxi out down here, take off that way, and just turn on course. So maybe we'll do that, but I'm not totally sure. Don't need the ice light or anything right now. Alright, oil temperature is up to 45 Fahrenheit. We've got to get it up to 100 before we can take off. We do have a short taxi. So tell you what we'll go ahead and do. Release the parking brake, throttle up just a little bit, and swing around over here. And it is dark, and it is only 3 in the afternoon, 3:30 almost, Alaska time. So there's really not anything going on. We're actually already picking up ice. So we do have to take that into consideration. These are our runway lights over here. Alright, let's slow down. So we're going to go ahead and taxi over here. And with the engine running a little bit more, that'll help warm the oil up a little more. So this is going southbound. So we actually are doing what would be the more sensible thing to do is take off in the direction of the wind. So once we get airborne, we will have to swing around a little bit. Elevation's right about 2,100 feet, and that's important to note. Let's come down a little ways. This is like nautical twilight, and I'll explain all of that in a minute. Shem, how are you, man? It's good to see you. I don't know how late you're going to be up tonight, but I know a bunch of other people will be asking if I'm going to do Planet Coaster tonight, and the answer is yes, after I do my flight. I did not... I know we're pretty far north, but I did not expect it to be this dark at 3:30 in the afternoon. But so be it. Alright, parking brake set. Oil temperature is 89. So it's almost up into the... Now it's 90, yeah. So we can go ahead and safely do a run-up. We're going to do the engine first to get the oil temperature up into the green. So we're going to bump it up to right about 1,700 RPM. Ah, that's good right there. Alright, quick mag check. Check the right first. Good drop, back to both. Check the left. Good drop, back to both. Alright, oil pressure is into the green. All of the indicators are good. Got no warnings or errors or anything. We're going to go ahead and pull back on the power. With idle power, we're going to drop the flaps to half. Out of the cockpit, it is tough to see that, but you can kind of see it right here. Flight controls, rudder is good. Elevator is good. Ailerons are good. It's just light enough to where we can see that those are functional properly. Alright. Heading select. This is going to be on. We're going to leave nav off. We're at 2,100 feet, just below it. When we get to 2,900, we'll be able to turn around to get on course to an Anaktuvuk pass. Flaps are confirmed at half. Lights are good. We've got everything set. Release the parking brake. And we're clear to go. Full power. Alright, engine instruments are good. Airspeed is already alive. The air is very dense. There's 60. 70. We're rolling uphill a little bit. 70 to... yeah. There we go. That was 77 as a rotate speed. It got to 79. As we kind of got over that ridge. Positive rate. Let's bring the flaps up. We can actually just turn the autopilot on now. We would not normally do that, but we're going straight, so it's fine. We won't turn until we get to 2,900. We got a lot of high terrain that we have to watch out for. That is news to my ears as I am planning a late night to catch up on work. Aw, man. Alright, we're good to go ahead and swing around. So we're going to turn the heading indicator, basically the reverse of where we were going, but not too much because we want to maintain the left turn. If we were to turn that heading indicator too much, the plane would actually stop turning, and it would swing around to try to turn right to line up with the target heading. We don't want to do that. Okay. Minus... oh yeah, look at that. It's still climbing. Or going up, I should say. The temperature's up to minus 17. It's a fair bit warmer than it was on the ground. So we're going to fly this heading. Now we're going to turn nav on so we intercept the course. And we can actually go ahead and pull back. We're burning a ton. I've never seen the fuel flow over 40 in this plane. That is ludicrous. We're going to pull back. Looking for 30.5 on the manifold pressure. Bump up just a little bit. Right there. And we're going to pull it back on the mixture until we get to 20 gallons per hour. And peak powers come up a little. Yeah, right there. That is perfect. Great. Alright, so it's 6,000 feet and the temperature is still minus 17. That's 1 Fahrenheit. How about a quick look outside? You really can't see much. This far north, the sun is almost down. This is what I would probably call nautical twilight, to where you can see the horizon, but you can't really see around on the ground. But this is Arctic Village. This is the actual town, and that right there is the airport where we took off from. That right there is where we were parked. So yeah. Okay. Back into the cockpit. It is going to be probably pretty dark by the time we make it to Anaktuvuk Pass. Landing light off. All of these stay on. And I don't think we have to touch anything over here until we get to cruise. So, nice, easy flight. Unfortunately, it is darker than I had actually anticipated it was going to be. But we may get a pretty view of scenery and stuff. It is worthy to note, this late in November, much of the northern part of Alaska is already getting what you call polar nights, where the sun just does not rise. Now, in Arctic Village and Anaktuvuk Pass, that is not the case, but you're only really getting maybe 2 to 3 hours of sunlight a day. And after the first week in December, they will have polar night. Polar twilight, I should say. For about a month. Harvey, how are you? It's good to see you. We definitely need a Discord server. That is, I am planning on setting that up this week, so. Yeah, 11,000 feet, so we have 5K to go. Ooh, look at the ice. It's not really bad on the windshield, but if you look at the side window, that's a lot. We're not flying through any visible moisture, so I'm actually surprised that we're picking that up right now. But let's go ahead and do something about that. We're going to turn the airframe de-icing on just in case we picked up any residual ice on the wings or anything. We don't need to do high, we can leave it on normal. But we are going to hit this windshield de-ice button a couple times. That should help kind of clear some of the ice off. There's a little residual. I don't think we're going to really be able to get rid of this, because if the sun was up, the sunlight naturally would melt the ice, but since the sun is already set, that isn't going to happen, so we may be stuck with that. So we might actually just have a slight reduction in airspeed, but I don't think it's going to be much. Would be good if I could be a mod on the channel, because I know lots about stuff. Potentially. I haven't really considered that. And I know you're enthusiastic about aviation, which is what I like, but you're also, with no disrespect, you are a little bit new to the channel, so I'd like to, you know, get familiar with you a little bit before I would make that decision, but I won't rule it out. What altitude am I at? 14,000. So if you ever look at my instrument panel, this indicator right here tells you the altitude. We're cruising at 16,000, which is set right up top. And the temperature is only minus 29 up here at altitude. With it being minus 21 on the ground at Arctic Village, that's actually not significantly colder at altitude. We did have that inversion where it warmed up, so to speak, to about minus 17. Oh, but hey, look at that! The ice actually is starting to melt a little bit, so maybe the de-icing does have a little bit of an effect on the front windows. That is cool to note. And we're just about leveling off. Alright, leveled off, we're starting to speed up. We do have a slight tailwind. About 10 to 12 knots right now. It was the ice that made me think. Nice. Alright. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a hint on icing. It is not really dependent on your altitude so much as it is... the primary factor is... Ooh, actually, I don't know. I was going to say the primary factor is visible moisture. However, the temperature coincides with that significantly. Because if you're above freezing, you're not going to pick up icing. If it's extremely cold, you're unlikely to pick up icing. So the temperature kind of has to be in a sweet spot. Really between 0 and minus 40 Celsius, although once you get below minus 20, your chances of picking up icing start to decrease pretty significantly. The other factor, visible moisture, you have to be flying in within visible moisture, or there has to be precipitation, like freezing rain, which is actually probably the worst case scenario, or regular rain that is called like super cooled. If those conditions don't exist, your chances of picking up icing are basically impossible. So And that varies because it depends on the atmospheric conditions. In some cases, like I've picked up icing in the southeast US at high altitudes. And I've picked up icing in the northeast US at just above the ground. So it depends on a lot of factors. And then there are the different types of ice. The simulator does not really replicate that. But in the real world, the type of ice makes a difference, to some extent. Generally, what they call clear ice is the worst. Rime ice is a little bit less severe. And that is more dependent on the type of clouds that you're flying through, and also on the atmospheric conditions. which actually also affect the type of clouds that are produced. So, I have never seen clear ice as a pilot. I have picked up rime ice, which is the less frightening of the two, but they both can be extremely dangerous if you don't understand and recognize and know how to respond to conditions when you pick up icing. In this plane, in the SR22, it has a really good de-icing system, so if we do get ice, we may be able to continue flying. But in most prop planes where flight into what we call known icing, Fiki, flight into known icing, is prohibited. And then what do you say about flight into unknown icing? Well, you better act quick. I actually, I don't know if I've mentioned this, I think I have, but I minored in meteorology in college, and a big focus on that minor was aviation meteorology, and I extensively researched icing. So, of all of the different components of aviation weather, beyond what a general meteorology background would cover, icing is what is by far the most familiar to me. FAP, fly and pray. Maria. Alright, so this is telling us exit icing. That's because the de-icing has been running for more than 5 minutes. We can turn it off. It's... oh, there we go. Oh, we should be fine. Yeah, I'm not seeing any now, so that's good. Unfortunately, it is pretty dark. We're not really getting good views of the scenery, but the sky is pretty. If we look to the south, you can see just a trace of twilight. And if you look up this way... oh, that is beautiful. Just the beautiful night sky full of stars. You can actually see a bit of the Milky Way. And it is not total night. It is still technically twilight. And I'll talk about that in a minute. Very interesting as it is when you are just clearing the Pyrenees? I don't know how to say that exactly. Going into Spain, seen lots of ice building up on the window as a passenger on a commercial flight. And that happens. Commercial aircraft are extremely well equipped to deal with icing. Most prop planes are not. Even the SR22. Whoops, I'm sorry about that. Even the SR22, which allows flight into icing conditions and is equipped to deal with that, is not foolproof. Alright, I think we can turn the boost pump off. Lean the mixture just a tiny bit there. Hold it back a tad much. It's a little more variable right here. Alright, let me pull the map up. Our route today is very straightforward. Took off out of Arctic Village, and we are going straight over the Brooks Range, pretty much exactly west to Anaktuvuk Pass. Been out of Anaktuvuk Pass many times. I think I've only flown into it once. Maybe twice. I think that's why I conflated altitude with ice. No, and that's fair, but it really depends on the weather conditions, not only on the ground, but also in the air above where you're at. Obviously, in the summer, you're going to pick up icing potentially at a lot higher altitudes, if at all, and in the winter, you're more susceptible to pick them up at lower altitudes. So, really easy. There is basically nothing to see, even in daylight, other than a bunch of pretty mountains, between Anaktuvuk Pass and Arctic Village. Chandelar Lake, which I actually have been in and out of many times, a lot of you know that it's one of my favorite airports, is all the way down here. I don't think we would be able to see it. Maybe you'd get a very, very small glimpse of it in the daytime. Certainly not at night. It is extremely remote. For reference, Fort Yukon is straight south of Arctic Village, pretty much. Let me switch the music. This is a duplicate. I'm sorry about that. I need to shuffle this. Yeah, a little bit better of a mix. Bettles, Prospect Creek, Coldfoot, right down here. Come on. Yeah, there it is, right there. Wiseman. Chandelar Shelf is over here, and then Galbraith Lake up here. For reference, I know a lot of you have seen my flights in Fort Yukon and Fairbanks, but Fort Yukon sits on the Arctic Circle, so we're about 100 miles north of the Arctic Circle, and that's part of why it's getting dark so early. Fairbanks is all the way down here. And the North Slope is actually not that far, so up here, Dead Horse, Prudhoe Bay over here, Barrow or Utqiagvik is all the way up here. And if we're talking about timing, let's talk a little bit about sunrise, sunset. So I did mention that in early December, after the first week of December, both Anaktuvuk Pass and Arctic Village are going to be dark for about a month. I mean, you'll get twilight, but the sun will not rise. Today, the sun rose at 11:03 in the morning in Arctic Village and set at 1:57, so about 2 hours ago. Now, with that said, twilight lasts a long time this far north. You might go an hour to an hour and a half of civil twilight. Yeah, so it actually looks like about an hour and 42 minutes today. So it is just after civil twilight over Arctic Village. And it'll be nautical twilight for another hour and 15 minutes. And then you have an hour of astronomical twilight. Now, the difference of all of those. So, there are three phases of twilight. Civil twilight is when the sun is below the horizon, but it is still light enough outside to where you don't really need any artificial illumination to be able to see. Nautical twilight, which is what we have right now, is where you do need artificial light to be able to see, like, on the ground around you and stuff like that. However, you can still very clearly distinguish the horizon from the terrain. So that's a very clear boundary of the two. And if we look out that way, it's a very clear boundary of the two. If we go out of the cockpit and look behind us, it's a little bit tougher to tell, but you can still see it pretty well. Astronomical twilight is the next phase, to where you can't really see the horizon very well, but there's still a trace of light in the sky. Maybe like a really deep blue, and where you can't see like the full effect of the stars and everything like that. And then pure night is when the sun is more than 18 degrees below the horizon, and you can see the full night sky. So, and we actually can see just a little bit of the terrain below us, these jagged mountain peaks. The Brooks Range, absolutely beautiful. This is one of my favorite parts of the state. Even though it's extremely remote and there's really not much to see beyond the mountains. I just find this part of Alaska extremely beautiful. It's extremely remote. The weather can be really challenging. It's not today, it's actually pretty nice. If you look beyond here, you can just barely see to where the terrain kind of flattens out. This is all the North Slope beyond the Brooks Range. If we look back this way, it goes a little further. There's a little bit of cloud cover, but then it tapers off out that way into the Yukon Flats. I will give a disclaimer too. If I knew it was going to be this dark, I wouldn't have done this flight. I would have chosen somewhere further south with better twilight, or even perhaps where the sun was still up. Let's fuel imbalance. We need to switch that. That'll clear in just a moment. We have about 19 minutes to go. Let's see if we can pick the weather up for Anaktuvuk Pass. It's a relatively short flight, only about 45 minutes. Now we're right about the halfway point. Still too far away to pick that up, but it should come up in a few minutes. So we've got time. We'll have to start descending in probably the next 3 minutes or so. I would love to go to Alaska, incredible part of the world. Shem, I'm right there with you. It is on my bucket list. Oh, that fuel imbalance is going to take a minute to clear. Oh well. It happens. Let's actually take a look at the sunrise times in Anaktuvuk Pass. Because it's further west, the sun will rise later and set later. Okay, so sunset here was at 2:26, so about an hour and a half ago. And civil twilight is just about over there. By the time we get on the ground, it'll be nautical twilight like it is right now. So that may make for a little bit of a tricky approach, and Anaktuvuk Pass is a tricky place to fly into. Even if the weather is relatively good, it could still be a bit of a challenge. Man, I just love flying up here, though. Even conditions like this. When I get the new flight sim installed this week, and we get to do these routes, when it's dark like this, we'll get incredible views of the northern lights. I can't wait. And I think you all will love it, too. I sure hope. Oh, little bit of light on the ground, and what we're seeing up here is the Dalton Highway. That is the ice road that runs from Fairbanks, way back over there, all the way up to Prudhoe Bay, up that direction. So this right here is the Galbraith Lake Airport. And the Dalton Highway runs up there. Of course, in the sim, it's not rendering beyond that, but the highway runs all the way up here. Now, it doesn't really have streetlights in the real world, but it is cool to point that out in the sim as a reference. Alright. Still can't pick up the weather, so I want to look ahead, because we need to start descending. I am going to check the chart for a safe altitude to start descending to, 8,100, so we can go down to 85. We could start to 8,000, we'll be okay. So I'm going to turn the FLC on to maintain that speed. We're actually going to slow it down. That's about 165. And we're going to go ahead and pull back on the power, right down to about 35%. That'll start us descending to maintain that speed. We'll set the power there, and we'll adjust our descent rate as needed. If we need to descend faster, we pull back further on the power. If we need to have a more gradual rate, we just increase the power a little bit. FLC maintains a constant speed, and your descent rate is controlled by the throttle. If we were to do vertical speed, we would control our descent rate. Descent rate would be fixed with the vertical speed, and we would control our airspeed with the throttle. I find this a little bit easier most of the time, but if I don't have a really good VNAV path, then sometimes we'll just time it and set a vertical speed based on an airspeed that we want to try to maintain. It is a little bit tricky. And there's a balance between the two. They both have their advantages and their disadvantages. So it's really dependent on a few different things. Alright, now I really need to get the weather over at Anaktuvuk. Still not picking it up. Alright, we're gonna look it up on the map. If you pull the map up, you can find the weather for any airport that has reporting weather. That does 0056. Alright, so this is the most current. 210 at 3, so we're going to fly in this way. That's generally the easier of the two, in my opinion. 6 miles visibility. It's hazy, so we're not going to have, like, excellent visibility. But it will still be good enough for us to go visual. As long as we have 3 miles visibility, we can go visual. Clear skies, minus 27, that is minus 17 Fahrenheit. So it is actually quite chilly. It's cooler over there than it was in Anaktuvuk Path, or I'm sorry, in Arctic Village. And 30.21 on the altimeter, so we're going to go ahead and change that right now. Set that to 30.37. Just going to turn that down to 30.21. Dale, how are you, man? Sorry if you already answered. Am I doing or flying to PC2 next? We will be doing PC2 tonight. Bromik, welcome. Evening from Long Island. Despite the best efforts of New York and New Jersey drivers, we made it here okay. Hey. Well, Jersey, yes, but New York, I spent a lot of time in upstate, so I mean, downstate's probably a little different, but, man, I still have in my mind Florida and Georgia drivers are among the worst in the country. Hope everybody's having a good flight, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's going well so far. Alright. So let's go in and set an approach. We are going to choose the visual runway 20. So let's set that, and we're going to set the straight fix. Give ourselves a little bit of an extended final approach. We're going to hit load, but not activate. Now we're going to go in here on the flight plan, toggle this down, and set target that. And we actually have a good descent rate. It's about 12 minutes to that fix, but we really don't have a lot more to go down, so I'm actually going to bump the throttle up just a little bit to slow that descent rate. Go with about 45%. Yeah, right about there should be good. That may be too much. Let's pull it back down to about 42. It's getting a little bumpy over the mountains, despite the very cold air. Pull up, pull up. No! We're fine! As long as we are more than 8,000 feet above the ground, we should be good. And we're actually already passing Galbraith Lake, so yeah, as long as we stay at 8,000, we'll be good. We are going to have to book it down pretty quick, because the terrain around Anaktuvuk Pass is actually very difficult. I'll pull that up on the map so we can see. This doesn't do it justice, but these mountains are actually pretty high. And so you have to be able to get out into the valley and then you have to really book it down, or we'd probably branch out, give ourselves more time to descend out here. So we may make that call. We'll make that determination once we get closer to the airport. Bump the throttle up just a little more. I do want to keep that descent rate pretty slow. Beautiful, though. Just a trace of twilight out that way. Can't really see much out that way, except a bunch of stars. But it is pretty. And if we zoom way out and take a look back over this way, yep, the Milky Way is becoming visible. We won't see it in its full glory, just because it is still technically part of twilight. I know a couple of you missed the explanation of the different phases of twilight. But it won't be night here for like another hour and a half, technically. And again, I think I would have chosen, if I knew it was going to be this dark the whole way, I think I would have chosen a different route, but it's nice to do something like this. What depressing abandoned fishing town we go into? No, this ain't a fishing town, this is a hunting town. Man, I hope you all had a good day. It was, I got out of work early, which was really nice, but I had a pretty frustrating day at work, so... at least I don't have to go back until Monday. So... little bit of quick... not really so much history, but maybe a little bit. But just information about Anaktuvuk Pass. It is one of the larger communities north of the, with the exception of Barrow or Anaktuvuk, and then like Prudhoe Bay. But people, I don't think, permanently stay up there unless they're working the oil fields around it and stuff. Anaktuvuk Pass is actually inhabited by the Inupiat people, who occupy most of the North Slope, and it's a subgroup of them called the Nunamiut people, and they were semi-nomadic, and throughout history they migrated based on... Sorry, my headset cut out. Where the caribou were going. They basically followed them, and caribou hunting is important to those people. And I think the community was only actually established in its current location in like the late 1940s or maybe the 1950s. Let me get caught up on chat here. We were driving by JFK and a British Airways 777 came out of the low-lying clouds on final, and I've never seen a plane that big solo to the highway. Dale! Helps to the no. The engines are the size of a small bus. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, 777 engines are massive. Little info about Arctic Village, where we took off from. That is actually part of the Gwich'in community. The Gwich'in people are the ones that inhabit like Fort Yukon, some of the settlements around there. Eagle, Old Crow over in the Yukon. Most of them are in Alaska, but there are some that go out into the Yukon. So there definitely is some pretty interesting Native Alaskan communities throughout all of the interior and the North Slope. And a lot of them are similar, but a lot of them are very different. It's fascinating. I would love to go up to some of these remote towns, because what do a lot of people do when they visit Alaska? They go to popular spots. And yeah, of course, Anchorage and Fairbanks and stuff, like big towns that actually have civilization. So to speak, in the sense of all the stuff that we would be used to where we live. But it would be so cool to go to some of these remote communities and just see how these people carry on their traditional ways of life. I would absolutely love to take a day trip up to some of these remote communities and just be able to check out like what their life is about, their culture is about, see what's important to them. And I think that would be pretty well appreciated by them. A lot of the Alaskan communities, from what I've heard, have kind of, maybe not so much hostile, but kind of, they're wary of outsiders and stuff like that. But I think if you take an appreciation to the way that they live, they appreciate you for respecting their culture. And that goes with most places, I think, in the world. Like, if you make an effort to understand them and respect their way of life, it's, you know, that's important to them. Yeah, let me switch up some of this music a little bit. My tip, don't leave your house. Well, you don't need to if you have Flight Simulator, although you can't really experience the way of life. You just get to see the world from your computer. Some parts of... Oh, let me get caught up here. Okay. A residency I'm writing a proposal for next year is based in Long Island. It would be my first time in the States. That'd be neat. Some parts of Long Island are beautiful, some are overcrowded and hectic. If you get to the States, I'll give you suggestions if you want. That'd be really neat. It's so cool when people within, you know... Like, I love you all interacting with me and stuff, but I really take a lot of pride in the fact that you all interact with each other. Like, that is super cool. Like, people getting to know each other just in chat and stuff like that. I really did not see that becoming a possibility until relatively recently. We're picking up ice again. I want to go ahead and turn the de-icing on. We'll hit the windshield button a couple times. That'll be after next Thursday. PC2 update and American Truck Sim. Oh, wow. Alright. Okay, this is where it starts to get difficult. See a lot of green, and actually even a few spots of yellow, so we really can't descend too much right now. So what I'm gonna do is set the heading bug, and then I'm gonna turn it, set it to 270, and that's gonna take us out a little bit over these flatlands. Now where there's the water, we know that's low-lying areas, so I'm gonna set that. And I'm going to just step it down gradually. We're going to go down to 7,000 feet until we clear this here. And then we should be good to be able to descend all the way down to like 4,000 where we need to. So this is adding just a little bit of flight time, but it's going to be a much safer way to get set up on final approach into Anaktuvuk Pass. If we take a look around... Oh, you know what? We can actually see it! That's it right there. That's the runway. That's where we're landing. And then here's the village right there. Anaktuvuk Pass is considerably larger than Arctic Village, but not much in the grand scheme of things. I think they have about 400 people living there, and Arctic Village has maybe 150 or 200. So, alright, let's set the vertical speed, and we're going to set it to 1,000 feet per minute. And we're going to pull the power back down to about 30%. Right about there should be okay, but we want to try to keep that speed from going. We're going to have to pull it back more. We want to stay at about 150 so that we can set half flaps when we need to. Alright, where we're at, we can actually go ahead and set the altitude all the way down to 4,000. So let's do that. I love helping peeps out so they don't look like tourists are getting stuck doing stuff they don't need to. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Back into the cockpit, because we actually don't have a lot of time here. We're going to have to cut the power. And we can go half flaps now. And what we're going to do is start a turn. And I'm going to go in here real quick, activate vector to final. And we're actually already going through the course. I want to make sure nav goes back on, approach on. And that should turn us to get lined up. But we're going to be booking it down pretty quick here. And actually turn VNav off. And we're just going to basically let the plane kind of drop itself as it needs to. This is going to be a bit tough. And it's turning us almost all the way back around to try to intercept this track. Why? No. Why is it doing that? Alright, we're hand flying this. Alright, that's not what I wanted it to do. It's like trying to circle us all the way back around. Alright. Oh, that is telling us flaps ice. We don't have ice, so we're okay. But we need to turn the de-icing off. So let's actually do that there.
Engaging autopilot.
Nope. Alright. No, we're good. Is everyone having turkey tomorrow, or are there rebels among us? I'm a rebel, but I'm not doing a hamburger. I am actually grilling a filet mignon. Try to treat myself. Alright, so actually what we're going to do is get lined up over here on approach. We're very high, so we need to bleed a lot of altitude. So we're descending pretty fast, which is fine because our airspeed is allowing us to do that. It's minus 15. Now it's minus 16 as we're going down, so there's a very steep temperature inversion. By the time we get on the ground, it's going to be about minus 27. And that's Celsius, so it was 5 Fahrenheit when I just mentioned that, and it's going to be minus 17 on the ground. It better be rare, or at least medium rare, or you're losing a subscriber. Well done. No. I like my steaks about medium rare. Alright, now we're getting back on the approach, so we're going to bump the power back in, and we're going to kind of fly by hand. Now we're getting moved around a little bit by the wind. Happy Thanksgiving for tomorrow, Shem, I appreciate that. Yeah, happy Thanksgiving to you all. And yeah, the haze is actually kind of starting. Ooh, man, you really can't see much of anything over here. Holy cow. Alright, let's do a few things. Landing light, we need to set up for landing configuration. Boost pump on. Mixture goes full, rich. We are low. Alright, yep. 4 red on the PAPI, so what we need to do is level off. We're actually not that low if we look at the glide slope indicator, that purple diamond. We're a little low. Alright, now we've got 1 white. We've got good speed. We could actually slow it down just a little bit. So let's pull back to about 25 to 30%. 500 feet to go. Alright, I'm making no promises on the quality of this landing. The visibility is actually worse than I expected. I mean, we can see the runway plenty far out, but we can't see the horizon or anything. So this is a bit challenging. I'll get caught up on chat in a minute here. So let me get the plane on the ground. This is a higher stakes approach than I'm used to. Alright, our speed is good, but we're a little low. So let's correct. Let's get lined up here. Slight crosswind. Not much. There we go. As long as I have one white, I'm okay. Prefer to have two. If we get to 4 red, we're in trouble. Add a little power. We're doing okay. Alright, take the power out. We're looking good. We're over the runway. Let's bring it down. Easy. Floating. Come on. We got runway to work with. Come on. Beautiful. We're on the ground. Not too bad. Alright, flaps up. And let's get turned. Alright, let me get caught up on chat here. We're going to taxi back to the end and turn off over to the parking areas. It is much darker over here than I expected. You could do... Hold on. Turkey, I want ham, though. Honestly, I just want bacon and beer. Sounds about right, Dale. You could do turkey, bacon, hell to the no. Cookie can do Bill Gates made-up fake steak. I hope I don't witness Cookie die while landing. I'll be traumatized. Oh my gosh. Got it. That was like butter. Phew, nicely done. What a badass. Oh my gosh. You all are awesome. That was not a great landing, but given the circumstances, it was good. I'm happy with it. The landing itself, the touchdown was smooth. The approach was a little rocky. It was a bit more difficult than I was expecting, but we made it in fine. Minus 26. That is minus 15 Fahrenheit over here. And we can see that icing. So we're going to turn off right back up over here. And the interesting thing is, where are they going to park us? Oh, yep, there's a forklift and a truck. We got some, even all the way up here at night, there are some vehicles moving around. At least they're not out on the runway. Alright. What do I see? I don't even see a parking team. So we're just going to stop right here. Alright, set the parking brake. Any landing you can walk away from is a good landing. Yes. That's a common joke in the aviation industry. To add to it, they say any landing you get to use the plane again is a good landing. And if it doesn't need repairs, it's a perfect landing. Alright. Let's go ahead and get the plane shut down. Pitot heat can come off. Boost pump off. Flaps are confirmed up. All of those are off. Turn the landing light off. And avionics, alternator switches. Alright, cut the mixture. Alright, 47 minutes. So I think just kind of breaking off course and setting up for a little bit further of a further out for the approach added a little bit of time. But that actually counted as a night takeoff and landing because they were an hour after sunset. Even though it is not technically true night, it does get counted that way. Alright, engine is stopped. Clear the annunciator. Strawberry Jam, welcome. Tell that to the people on that one Delta flight. I'll talk about that here. Alright, lights off, magneto switches, and battery. And, wow, we got a weird vehicle driving through the town. I'm pretty sure he's speeding. Actually, if I look around, I can't even see where they were intending to park us. So, I don't know, maybe we just park ourselves. Yeah. Just the haze over here. Even the stars are a little bit blurry. So, it was definitely a little bit of a lack of visibility in this area. So, not terrible, though. Okay, so before I end the stream, let me talk about that flight up in February in Canada where the plane rolled over. Something went wrong, and at least the preliminary evaluation was that the pilots didn't do anything inappropriate. I think what happened, it may have been that the runway was not clear and it wasn't reported, or maybe they just hit a patch of ice that nobody knew about. That caused the plane to start to slide and tip over. It was an absolute miracle that the plane didn't catch fire. In terms of the fuselage, because that would have probably killed a lot of people. The fact that it came to rest and that the fire was on the far side up away from where the fuselage was really, I'm going to say, the grace of God. That it happened that way, and everybody was able to get out, and that it wasn't a lot worse. Because what can happen is, if the fire is close enough to that fuselage, you can actually have a flashover, and that happened, I think, in Cincinnati, if I remember right. It may have been somewhere else, where they had a crash landing, the plane caught fire, and they tried to evacuate, and only half of the people on board made it out because the plane ended up flashing over, and everybody that hadn't made it out at that point was basically burned to death or inhaled smoke. I really don't like talking about plane crashes, but you can learn a lot from them. The feet per second look way too extreme from what I remember. There could have been some error, but I don't think the way the landing was handled was the pilot's issue. So, I don't know. I haven't really reviewed the report super in depth, but it was definitely a miracle that it wasn't a lot worse than it actually was. So, anyway, welcome to freaking cold Anaktuvuk Pass. And it is very dark. So yeah, remote Alaska. Hope you all enjoyed the flight. I'm going to take a short break. We'll be back with PC2 here in just a little bit. Hang tight. Hope to catch you there. If not, take care, stay safe. We'll see ya.